Hi, welcome back to the Board Game Specialists. I'm Carla.
And I'm Melanie.
And today we are on episode 31, and we are going to talk about our survival games, our top 9 survival games. But before we do that, Melanie, what have you been playing lately?
Well, honestly, we recorded not that long ago. It's only been a couple days. I haven't actually played a whole lot. But I did get a couple of boxes come in. So I've got new games that joined the collection this week. The first one that I got was A Fake Artist Goes to New York, which I'm surprised at how small that game is for how much you hear how great it is. But it's just a very small, tiny game. So I'm really excited about that one. And it looks like it's a party game where most everybody has a word that they know they're trying to draw, and everybody takes turn adding like one line to the drawing, but one person has no idea what the drawing is supposed to be. So it looks interesting. And then I also ended up getting Land versus Sea, and it's another one that I've heard amazing things about, and I'm excited to give that one a try. And then I also ended up getting Decorum. And then with Decorum is your decorating a house, but everybody's got a criteria they gotta meet, and you don't know what those are, but you're trying to get the house so that it meets everybody's criteria, from what I understand. So I'm excited for that as well. And then I got a new shelf, so super excited. Somebody had posted like a 4x4 calyx shelf, but it was in like the white wood. And I was like, it really doesn't go with all my other shelves, but maybe I can make it work. And then I decided to pass on that just because I was like, okay, I don't technically need a shelf now. I'll wait till something that meets what I want comes along, or I'll go buy new. And then somebody had shared a post about a 5x5, 5x5 and the dark wood calyx secondhand. So I ended up picking that one up. So now I've got, counting like just the cubbies, not my small shelf game shelves, like the DVD shelves, but I have 95 cubbies I can fill with board games now.
Will you rent out space?
No, I want to fill it with my own stuff.
Now,
how about you, Carla?
I'm trying to hold off buying another shelf, but
geez,
I have room. I have room for another shelf, so it's gonna happen.
Well, I had this wall, and at first I was gonna put a shelf on it, but when we got looking, there was a thermostat on it. I was like, well, I'm not gonna cover up the thermostat. It's fine. And so I put a smaller shelf there. And then when we got painting, and we're painting around the thermostat, and we're kind of went to pull off the thermostat and replace it with a new one. Well, it turned out this thermostat's not plugged into anything. It was just kind of loosely hanging there. So like, oh, well, if it's not even being used. So we just took it off, and then I put a big shelf on that wall.
Perfect. Yeah, so a couple.
Now, how about you? What have you been playing?
Yeah, a couple I've been playing. The first one is Gutenburg. This is a newer release to North America, I believe. It's been in Europe for a little while now, a few months, but finally brought it over here. I think Portal brought it over, and it's really fun. I had looked at it, and I had really wanted it, and then I sort of passed up on it just from some of the reviews that said, oh, it's super light. It's not a heavy Euro. It's not even a medium Euro. Well, I disagree. It's definitely not heavy, but it's definitely a medium Euro, and it's really fun. And the theme behind it is you're a printing press, and it has some really cool components. You have some wooden letter stamps that are neat that you just use to like fulfill your like printing recipes kind of thing. But it's really neat because you have your action selection is similar to, what's that game I have? Fresco. So you have a screen, and then you have, I think it's 5 different actions that you can choose how powerful you want to use them. And you have these little cubes of ink, and depending on the player order, like the last players get more ink, and then, the first player will get the least amount of ink. So you'll kind of choose like, I want to get a lot of ink this turn, so I'm going to put like 3 cubes there. Or I want to get like an end game goal, I'm going to put one there. Or I want a new cog, because there's like these cool cogs that are part of your player board. And if you get them, you'll get that like a certain action every turn, but then they'll turn And then, like, depending how they all turn, you'll get a different action next turn, which is neat. But so you can get all these things, but if you want something really bad, you're going to put more ink on that row. And then you'll lift your screen, and then everybody looks to see, like, who's got the most in the first row, and then they get to choose a new ink recipe kind of thing. Or not an ink recipe, like a letter press recipe. And it's just,
nice.
It's really neat. Like the little ink actually printed out, 3D printed out like actual little colored ink drops that are really neat. And so we used those. And the funny thing was she had learned this game because she went to the volunteer training kind of for Falcon, and they just so they could show you how they want games taught, and they taught this game to her, and she's like, oh, I really like this game, I'm gonna grab it. So it's kind of a neat way how she learned it. But
nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I liked it. I'm excited to play it again. Another one we played was this is just a simple goofy game. It's called Color Addict. Have you played this one?
Okay.
It's a card game, and it's just like a speed card game, and I think it might go up to 5 or 6 players, but I've only played it, I played it 2-player and then 3-player. And so you flip a card, and on the card, it'll have a color, like say pink, like kind of in letters, but it might be spelling the word green. So the word spelled green, but might be in color pink. So your cards you could play on it can either be green or pink. So you kind of have to think in different, like, I don't know, it's kind of, and then there's also a splotch of ink on there in a different color, which is there to throw you off, right? So you're like, okay, I gotta play. And you just have this stack of cards and you're just trying to get them all down. And so, oh my gosh, we had so much fun just flipping cards and like slamming on each other. And then we look and we're like, oh, that's not even the right one. But it's such a simple game, but like a funny, Dutch Blitz, like fast kind of play. Right. It's a fun one. Good one. It would be funny with the family. It'd be interesting with kids because you either read the word or you have the color, but you gotta ignore that ink blotch. It's cool. Right. That would throw you off, mostly when you add speed into there, right? Because you want to do it so fast, and then that ink blotch is so big on the card that it's just calling out that you want that color. And then another one we played last night, actually, me and Cherry, she got her Nicodemus game in. She had ordered a bunch of games for all of us. We had all added to her order. Oh, by the way, our framework is in. I'm so excited because I ordered one and you ordered one too. But anyway, so Nicodemus, this is a 2-player version of Imaginarium. Now, Imaginarium is a steampunk themed engine building game. And this one is just a real quicker, just 2-player version of it. And it's so cool because it has the same kind of, I think they call it a bric-a-brac, which is like the, how the cards kind of line up on the board and then they will move along, and then they'll end up in this like chomper thing that kind of eats them all. But how you play it, it's a little bit different than the main game, is you either will play a card on there and take one of the actions on there or some of the resources, or you will build one from there. You can't build from your hand. So if it's a card you want to build, it has to get on there first. So you're kind of chancing that they're going to take that card. So you kind of look and see, okay, do they have all the resources to build this one? No, okay, I'm safe to play it down. But there's other cards that will remove cards from there. So there's all these end game goals. So if they see, oh, you only need that card there to get this end game goal, well, I'm just going to remove it. So it's a real back and forth, like I'm, not take that game, but a hate draft game. Whereas you want to do positive things for yourself, but you also have to play some moves where you're going to remove some stuff from them. There's cards that will let you take some of their resources. And there's a very limited amount of resources. So if you go and play something to collect them and they're not there, well, then you take them from the other player. So it's really neat, a really cool mechanism. I really enjoyed it. At first, I couldn't figure out how to get coal, because coal is how you will collect cards that further down on the bric-a-brac. You'll have to like put one kind of like, what's it called? Century Spice Road, you have to put a cube down in order to get the further one. So I had no idea. I'm like, because it seemed like you could only get one coal, like with one card. And I'm like, how can you ever get like 5? well, I had misunderstood the rules where you play a card and the value of the points, that's how many the coal you can get. So it was a little bit easier. So I figured that out halfway through, but it's a really cool 2-player game, which was funny. We just did our 2-player games last week. And this, I think, might have made that list because and I've only played it once, but it was really cool.
It's hard to come up with just 9 too, but yeah, there's just so many options out there.
Well, and then like I only picked from my games, and like some of my friends have 2 players, and I'm thinking about them after. I'm like, oh, that's such a good one too. There's so many good ones out there. But yeah, so that's what I've got on my list for the week. Now let's talk about our top 9. Do you have any honorable mentions?
You know what? I've kind of started making the list, and I went with, because we're doing our top 9 survival games. And I kind of went for a criteria where, as a player, you can die.
Yeah.
And I didn't go with eliminated because that's kind of too abstract. So I really went with that you could die. Yeah. I also kind of remove anything that was like where you kind of get, unconscious, I guess, and you can come back in the game. So I haven't included any of those either. It was really, if you can die in the game, then that's one that I consider as a survival game. So there's a lot of games that I was like on my list, and I was like, oh, but technically,
you don't die.
So I removed it. And actually, I'm looking at my list, and that might be one that kind of breaks that a little bit that I've kept. But so that's kind of what the criteria that I was following. So there was a few games that I was like, oh yeah, that'd be great. I was like, oh, technically, and then so took them out. But yeah, no, other than that, I don't think I have an honorable mention. I can't remember what my number 10 would have been.
I have one little honorable mention, and only because I haven't played it in so long, and it's called Lifeboat. So I don't know if you've played this, but it's a card game, and you can play it with multiple players. I think it goes up to like 6, maybe even 8. And you are a person on this lifeboat. You're either like, a young boy, or like the captain, or this like rich fancy lady or something. But what you do is you play cards, and you're trying to kick people off. So it's a very take that game. And I think we've only played it once, the family. It's kind of got some really unsmooth rules, so you kind of have to keep going back to the rule book, which is why I haven't played it. But it's a really neat concept, because you're trying to kick them off and steal their stuff, or their inheritances, so that you have more at the end. But the funny thing is, you get these cards at the beginning. You get one card of someone you love and one card of someone you hate. And of course, you're trying to kill the person you hate, and you're trying to save the person you love. And you can actually pick yourself. So if you love yourself, you are a masochist, I think they say. And if you hate yourself, you're a psycho or something. But it's so interesting because there's all like these different things that you do to like kick people off, or to move them to the back of the boat. Or I don't even remember everything about it, but it's such a kind of goofy, neat game. I'd love to play it with someone who knew the game really well and could guide it. But it's kind of tough when you kind of have to keep going back and forth. But all right, so let's start with your number 9. What do we have?
All right, so my number 9 is probably one of my most played game on my list, just because my kids love it. And it's Star Realms. So Star Realms was published in 2014. It's created by Robert Doherty and Darwin Castle, and it's published by Wise Wizard Games. And this one is you play, it's like one last man standing is the winner type of game. So best, I would say this one plays best 1 versus 1, but because we are a family of 6, we oftenly play like up to 4 players, where you kind of just battle everybody and trying to be the last guy still standing. And you, it's a deck building game. So, and your cards will either, or the beginner cards anyways, will either hit by 1 or allow you to purchase by 1. And then you're purchasing more ships or space station to add to your discard pile. And when it gets shuffled into your pile, Excuse me. And then spaceships actually will stay in play in front of you, and they'll protect you. And there's two kinds. There's the kinds that they cannot hit you until they've destroyed it, and then there's a kind that's it doesn't have that shield kind of ability to it. They can bypass it and still hit you directly and leave it standing if they want, or they could destroy it if they want. But it's neat. And then when you're getting multiple cards of the same faction, your cards can become more powerful because you're activating extra attacks or abilities that they can do. And it's just hitting each other, trying to be the last man standing. And this is one that we pull out a lot. This is one that the kids will actually ask to bring to school and play with their friends. It's one that goes over really well. Hero Realms is a similar game, but more on the fantasy theme side, which you would think I would like best. But for some reason, even though it plays the same, I like Star Realms better. I don't know why. But that's my number 9, Star Realms.
Awesome. My number 9 is Survive, Escape from Atlantis. This was made in 1982 by Julian Cortland Smith. Now, this one was my first ever survival game, I believe, that I played. And played it a lot with the family, and they all really liked it, and still do. So I got all the expansions so that you could play with, I think it goes up to 5 or 6 people with it, but it's such a cool game, and it's old. Like, it really stands the test of time, I believe. So what you do is you're on this island, and this island is made up of these tiles. There's either like grass, rock, I can't think of what the third one is, but you have to, on your turn, or before you start the game, you get to place all these little meeples on these tiles, and they all have different numbers on them, from 1 to 6, I think, or 1 to 5. So only you know what is under them, if you can remember. But you will place them like one at a time on, one will go on a tile, and you can't share a tile at the beginning of the game. And then everyone will place them, and then you have a boat that you get to place, sometimes 2 depending on player count. So you'll kind of strategically place these boats kind of close to your meeples if you can. I mean, you will have some that are deep in the middle of the island that won't come out to the boats quite early because they have to move through the tiles, but so you do that, and then on your turn you move, I think, 3 movements. So you can move one person 3, or you can move 3 different people 1 movement. And what you're trying to do is get them on these boats and get them to the corners of the board, which is the land, basically. And so once they're on land, they're safe, and they will count as points. But it's quite tricky to get there because you can share boats, and as long as you are on that boat, you can control it and move it. So you strategically don't want to just have all of your people on a boat, because that is just going to be a huge bullseye for people to sink that boat. But what you do is, after you move, you will take one of the tiles off the board, so it's slowly sinking the middle, like the Atlantis. And if there's a person on that tile, well, they are in the water, and they can swim, like, it's fine, but swimmers can only move 1 movement ever in a whole turn. They can't move 3 or 2. And if there happens to be a shark in your spot, well, you're gone. You're dead. There's whales that will eat boats. There's like giant squid that'll actually pull you off the land if they're right next to your tile. There's all these different things. Oh, and then of course there's the sea dragon that will just destroy boats, people, everything. So it's really neat, because you will start to see, okay, there's a couple, he's got 3 people on land, we're going after him, and everyone will gang up on this one person. And how the game ends is you will draw this volcano tile, which is near the end, like in the middle of the real thick tiles that you draw last, because you always have to go like the thin tiles, and then they're a little bit thicker, and then that's kind of the order how you will take them off the board. But yeah, once that volcano erupts, everything around it is dead, so you want to get as fast as you can to these islands. And it's just so funny how you will kind of gang up on some people, but you kind of try to stay like quiet about how many you've got going, and it's a really fun, cool game. And the components are, I think I do have the new anniversary edition, so I don't even know what the first edition was like for components, but these ones are really nice. They do have plastic meeples, but all wooden, like sharks and boats and things that are actually really nice. Yeah, and that's my number 9, Survive, Escape from Atlantis.
And that sounds like a cool one. My number 8 is another one that I prefer to play as a 1 versus 1, and that's Dice Throne. Now, I'm going to include in this one Season 1, Season 2, and the new Marvel edition that came out. Each one has 8 different characters that you can play, but you can mix and match and play one from Season 1 against Marvel, or, you can just play any character against any other character. And actually, they just released on Kickstarter the Santa Claus one and I don't remember what the kind of mean Santa was called, but they released those 2 characters as well. And this one was created by Nate Chatelier and Manny Tremblay, and it's published by Roxley Games. And I really like this one. So each character, and then the way that they're done up too, just the box has this big huge chest when you get the chest version, and then you open it and each character has its own little kind of storage containers with a lid that everything stays together so perfectly. And then you'll open it up and then it has a trifold board for each character, and the artwork that Manny has done is just stunning. And then you have custom dice for each character, and they each have their own set of cards. And then you'll shuffle the cards. You kind of draw a few. I think it's 4 to begin with. And some of these cards will give you dice manipulation abilities, or some of them will allow you to upgrade some of the attacks that you can do and so on. Because on your board you have these different spots that have different attacks or defense that you can do. But they have different requirement with the dice. So either you need 3 of that symbol and 1 of the other to activate this attack, or a small run of numbers to activate the other attack. So you'll roll the dice Yahtzee style. So you'll roll them all, kind of pick which one you want to re-roll and so on, until you're able to activate one of those attacks. And then you're attacking the other player. Again, I like this one at 1 versus 1, but I do play it as a big, huge melee type where it's kind of last man standing, because we're a family of 6. Yeah. And this is one that my oldest, my stepson Nick, really likes. This is by far his favorite game. He got so excited when I had played the pre-production copy of Marvel because he thought I had it at home. And then the next time he came over, he's like, "Great, let's play it." I was like, "Oh, I don't have it yet." It was just visiting basically until it comes out. And he was like, "What?" He was like, then he would come over and say, "Well, is it here yet?" I was like, "No, not quite yet." So, but we have our own copy now, so that's great. And then, but yeah, so it's just a neat one. It's neat because each character plays slightly differently. You'll have the pirate one where the pirate one doesn't get upgrades for her attacks. But every time she attacks, she can kind of draw doubloons, but she also loses a doubloon every round. And if you ever run out of doubloons, you have to flip your board over and you become a cursed pirate. Mm-hmm. And now you're this ghost pirate, and all your attacks are a little bit stronger as well. But as a cursed pirate, you also take damage every round. So you don't want to allow yourself to kind of become cursed too soon, because you could kind of slowly nitpick away at your own health. But when hey, we're getting kind of low and I've almost got, this one beat, so I'm going to go curse now, and then your attacks are stronger. And but yeah, so each one kind of plays slightly differently and has their own flair, but it's such a neat game, and it's one we play often, and that's my number 8, Dice Throne.
Yes, you talk about this a lot. You guys love that in your family. All right, my number 8 is Crave, and this is made in 2019 by Brian Sloan. Now, I typically don't love the health, keep track of health games. I'm not sure why, but I don't know. To me, I think it's the battle part of it where it's like one of us is dying. Like it's, like it's always.
Oh, right.
So it's not my favorite mechanism, but I'm learning to like them more. This one is that. You literally have a health meter, and it's a 2-player game. And one is a vampire hunter, and the other player plays the vampire. And the art in this is so cool because these aren't just like your normal like old vampires. These are hipster vampires. And the the vampire hunters, there's some hipsters in there too. And there's some like werewolves and all these different things that can go either way. So you have your own deck of cards that you start with, and then you have a universal deck that you can buy from, and you can kind of turn them to whichever side you are on. It's such a neat game though, because you will play cards at the beginning, and what you're trying to do is you'll first buy cards you play your cards down, and depending on how much the little points are on them, like credits, I can't remember what they call them in the game though. You'll buy cards, and those will go into your hand, I believe. Now I'm forgetting if it's hand or discard. No, actually I think it is discard. But also, other than the credits on the cards, a lot of them will have abilities, so you can attack depending what they have up there. And some of the cards will stay around for the round until they're attacked themselves. So the vampire hunters, there's ways of healing themselves. With the vampires, the only way they heal, they call it drain. So they will actually suck your blood, and that gives them back some of their health, which is kind of neat. But it's such a cool game, and I've only got to play it a few times. I'll have to pull that out again. I know you would love it, because I think the reason I bought it, because I hear all about Starons, like from you, but from like so many people love it. And this was kind of compared to it, but just with a different theme. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to try this one, because this is kind of a cool different theme that I could grasp. But it's so neat. I feel like it is harder to win as the vampires. So I usually will play them when I'm playing people who have never played it. And I can't remember if I've won it as a vampire, but I think that's the trickier one, because it's easier to, it's harder to get the drain cards, which will help heal you back. But it's still really neat. And the cards are these big, chunky, like tarot-sized cards. And the art on it is just
I like that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so neat. And that's my number 8, Crave.
That one does, like you've talked about it a few times, and it does appeal. And it's not one that, other than you, I have not heard of this game at all.
The only reason
So it's really one that's like flying under the radar.
The only reason I heard about it was Jamie Stegmaier talked about it on one of his, just little, where that he like showcases like a game and talks about it for 5 minutes and the best mechanism in it. And
right.
I was like, what? I've never heard anybody ever talk about this game. So.
No. Huh. I'm going to add that to my wish list right here. Look at that. Crave wish list for Melanie. Because, I need a wish list. Like I need another hole in the head. So my number 7 is King of Tokyo. It was published in 2011. It's created by Richard Garfield, and it's published by Yellow. And this is a King of the Hill type game. So each character plays as a different monster, and you're all trying to destroy Tokyo, but you can't all be in Tokyo at the same time. And so when you're in Tokyo, you're kind of gaining more victory points for being in Tokyo, but you can't heal while you're in there. But whoever is in Tokyo, whenever they do damage, they hit every other monsters that is not in Tokyo. But then every other monsters, while they're not in Tokyo, whenever they do damage, hits the monster that is in Tokyo, because you're all competing to destroy Tokyo. So you kind of push your luck a little bit. So you go into Tokyo, you gain victory points for going in there. And every time you start your turn in Tokyo, you gain victory point as well. And then you hit everybody when you're in there. But like, okay, I'm coming down to like 5 health. Maybe I should start getting out of here. And when you take a hit, you have the option of, okay, no, I'm out. And then whoever hits you has to go in Tokyo if you vacate Tokyo. So then they have to go in. Now they get the benefit of getting the victory points for going in and the same thing, but then again, they cannot heal. But it's really neat because it's a dice Yahtzee style battle game. So you have all these nice big chunky dice and you roll them and you have the claws, but then you'll have number 1, 2, 3. And if you ever get 3 of the same numbers, then you get that many points in victory points. And to win, you either want to reach 21 victory points or be the last monster standing and have destroyed everybody else. So you're really just trying to outlast everybody. And try to gain as much victory points to see if you can win that way. Most of the time when I've played this, we win by destroying everybody else. And it's always Lily who wins. Oh, really? She has insane dice luck with this game. This is one of the early game I kind of had showed her, and she adored it. And the characters are neat, like all the different, like you got like a little penguin in a spacesuit, or you have like a kitty, but it's like a tech kitty, or like it's cutesy. But it's a neat one. This is actually the game that got me really into the hobby, because my brother gifted this to me for my birthday in 2017, and he was sending me hints, and then I like found it, and I'm like, King of Tokyo, and I was like looking at it, I thought it was a kid's game, and I'm like, why is he getting me a kid's game? I'm like, okay, whatever. And then, but it was neat. Like, it's one that is neat. Every time we bring it to the table, it's fun. And you have these little energy cube that you can spend to acquire cards that'll give you kind of special abilities, or one-time use cards that'll kind of do different things. But it's a really fun kind of King of the Hill type game, and that's my number 7, King of Tokyo.
Yeah, that's a cool one to play with a bunch of people. I think it's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
My number 7 is Pandemic the Cured, made in 2014 by Matt Leacock. Now I do love all the Pandemic games, but this is my favorite version of it, I think. Like, I do like the legacy and everything. I do like the card play, but this one, I don't know, it's different. Like, I mean, there's a lot of luck because there's dice, right? But it just seems to come out more than the base Pandemic. So it's Pandemic with dice. So what you don't have a map like you do in the normal Pandemic. You have these little circles that are numbered from 1 to 6, and those are like basically your areas that you are trying to cure. So at the beginning of the game, you will roll a bunch of dice, and whatever numbers they are, you will put them on each of the numbered squares. And you start with a player power, and then you all start with unique dice. So each player has like a set of dice, and the odd person will have more than the others depending what their power is. And you will just roll your dice, and you use all your actions. You can either like treat, you can fly to any of the circles that you're at, because you do start your pawn on one of them. If you have a boat, you can go to one of them next to you. There's a little like pill bottle, which is a treat, and that's how you will cure the disease. So with the treat, you have to have, with the sample, that's what they call it. With the sample, you have to have had treated dice and put them in the middle, and then take them out, and you put your dice on top of one of them. And then once you get like 3 or 4, the end of your turn, you will try and roll them, and you have to get over 11 in order to cure that color of disease. So sometimes it'll take a few rounds, and you just have really bad dice luck. Like, you'll have 4 or 5 dice, and you somehow can't get 11 out of like normal 1 to 6 pips. But then there's sometimes you'll roll 3 dice, and you'll get 3 6s, right? And you can also take other people's. Like, if you are in the same spot as them, you can take one of their dice and put a treat on it. You can take you take one of their actual dice, and then you've got some of the other people, so you really want to like cure that soon, because you're actually using up their dice. But it's a game that can literally be over in 10 minutes, or it can take like 30. Sometimes, it's just, you just get really bad luck, and you're like, oh, we are dead, because the dice just keep piling up. Because, of course, at the end of the round, you will pull more dice out and infect, just like in the main game with the cards, right? But it's just trying to control those. You do have some cards that you can buy. If some of the dice, I'm not sure if all of them, they do have one side that has a plus symbol on it. And that's like, that's what you will use to pay for some of these cards that will help you throughout the game. It's so neat. I ended up getting the expansion, which was just basically more player powers and a whole bunch of more dice. But it's just so fun. And I know we taught you, and then you actually found this one used as well, right?
Yeah. It's not often you come across a game that will be like, okay, I want to go hunt this one down. And that one was one. Like, after we played it, I was like, because I already had like a dice version of Pandemic with my Pandemic, what's it called now? But it's more like a real-time game where you're like... Rapid response, that's what it is, yeah. And you're just trying to like roll the dice as much as you can in the time that you have allocated. So it's more of a real-time game. But when we played Pandemic the Cure, I was like, oh, I'm liking this. Yeah. So I think we lost, honestly. Yeah, like, probably. I don't think we had won. But it was so neat, and I was like, okay, I want this one. And then I was kind of like on the hunt for it afterwards. So finally got my own copy here, like maybe a few weeks ago now. But yeah,
it's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, so that's my number 7, Pandemic the Cure.
Perfect. My number 6 is the one that's kind of borderline follows the rules, but that's Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. It's published in 2020. It's created by Isaac Childress, and it was published by Cellophare Games. And now the reason I've put Jaws of the Lion instead of just a regular Gloomhaven is because I haven't played the regular Gloomhaven yet. We're going through the campaigns of Jaws of the Lion first. And I'm saying this one kind of semi not follows the rules because it is campaign. You can die and lose a scenario, but then you come back and do the same scenario. So you don't die, but you die enough that you failed this particular scenario. And you can have one character die and the other one continue on and win. But with this one, you've got so much health, and we're playing. So I'm the warden, and Lee, I can't remember what his character is supposed to be, but he's more like the warrior type. And I have almost no health in compared to him. So, and my character tends to kind of try to battle more from afar, where she can control other monsters and she can control other players and make them do extra attacks. And that's more how my character works. But because my health is so low, and then if I start taking some hits, which you will at some point, then it's kind of like, okay, you can heal in this game a little bit, but it's not like that readily available. And the way that it works is you have your deck of cards, and then on each turn you're going to look through your cards and you're going to pick 2. One that you're going to activate the top portion, one you're going to activate the bottom portion. But then afterwards it goes in your discard pile, and you got to look at the rest of your cards, and it slowly kind of becomes slim picking until be like, okay, I need to rest and kind of recycle my cards because I don't have anything good left or whatever. But it's one that's so neat. Like, you have the map, you have the monsters that comes out, and you've got your like, it's a dungeon crawl. It is a dungeon crawl, and it's one that I quite enjoy. We're a little bit over halfway through the campaigns of Jaws of the Lion, and it's one that it's me and Lee we do. So every once in a while we'll bring it out. It did go through a long period where we didn't play it for a while because we had lost a scenario so badly that I was kind of mad at the game. I was like, no, I need to cool off from this game until I'm like, make my peace with it before I can play it again. So we went like quite a few weeks without playing it because of that. But this tends to be like our go-to, hey, want to play a game tonight? Sure, let's set up Gloomhaven. But it's a neat game. So that's my number 6, Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion.
Nice. My number 6 is Paleo, made in 2020 by Peter Rustemeyer. This one I've talked about a few times. We have played this cooperative, you can play it solo as well, but you're basically playing two-handed, so like two-handed co-op. It's
Oh, right.
it's a very neat game, but I think I was the only one who actually liked it. And I don't know that I would play it solo, so we actually traded it for a different game. But it's such a good game. If other people enjoyed it, I would play it again. It is a card game, basically, but you do have all these different types of cards. You start with like a deck of cards, and each player, and then you divide the cards between all the players evenly. And you grab 3 cards off the top, and you don't look at the bottom of them. You can only see the top, and at the top will give you a clue as to what could be underneath, because it'll give you a location. Like it'll be like you're either at the river, or you're in the forest, or you're on the mountain, and then you can kind of look at a chart to see what kind of things you could find in those areas. Like you might find resources like some wood or stone. You might find like an animal that you'll fight, and then you would get food. And you need all these things because at the end of the round, if you don't have enough food to feed your people, you're going to get these skulls. And once you have gathered so many skulls, you are dead. But what you're trying to do is build this hieroglyphic painting kind of thing of a, what is it, of like a
cave painting.
Yeah, but I can't remember what it's of again, like of an elephant or
a mammoth?
Mammoth. That's
Was it a mammoth?
Yeah, it's a mammoth.
Right.
And so you have like I think there's 5 or 6 pieces that you're trying to build, and once you complete it, you've won the game. So that you can pass on to generations or something of what you've done. And so that's the theme behind it. But it's really neat because as you're doing this, you have symbols on the bottom. You may have a symbol that shows a help symbol. So if there's something that you pull and you're like, I can't do this, but I can help somebody else because I have all these other symbols or cards that I've gathered, because you each have a bunch of warriors at the beginning that will give you either like, intellectual help, or they'll give you strength, or they can like build things, all different things. But depending on what you have and the other players have, some of the cards require a certain amount of things, and you might not have them all yourself, so you need help. So another player can help you, and they would just discard their card and use their things. They don't give them up. Most of the times it's just they just have to have them. Sometimes you do have to give them up. But there's other things you can do. Is you can build new tools. You can discover new tools and then build them. That'll help you. You can have a dream, and the dreams will give you like sort of like some foreshadowing for the future. And it's just a neat game. And at first it wasn't very smooth, but as we played it more and more, I think it was after you left, it got to be like we would flip our cards, choose like that, and then play, and then next round. So it got to be a little quicker once you kind of got the iconography down, which was a little tricky at first, but I really liked it. And that was Paleo, my number 6.
Wonderful. My number 5 was gifted to me years ago, and it's a game I had never heard of, so I hadn't played it, and it kind of sat on the shelf a long time. It looked interesting, but I don't know. And it was just like I had purchased this game from a friend, and he's like, well, here, maybe I'll give you this one too, because he had done the same thing. He'd never played it. It looked interesting, but never heard of it. So and that's Monster Menace America. This game was published in 2005. It was created by J.C. Connors and Ben Knight, and it was published by Avalon Hills. And the first time we played this, now get me, this game is flawed. The rules don't quite jive properly, mostly for the game ending. So it's kind of... the ending just feels wrong when you play it. So we ended up kind of creating house rules for this one. But even when we had played it with the rules that felt quite flawed, the rest of the evening, we couldn't stop talking about this game. And we're in bed, me and Liam were talking about it, and we're talking about it. And it was such a fascinating game. Like the rest of it, it just made such an impression that we're like, okay, you know what? Most of the time, if the game doesn't quite work, you would just kind of like, you know what? We're just not going to play this one. But this one, because it was so intriguing and it fascinated us so much, and we couldn't stop talking about it the whole evening after we played it. Like, there's just so much there that it just needs a few tweaks. And I went on Board Game Geek and kind of found some house rule that they had recommended to kind of fix the flaws. And then we kind of picked a few. But with Monster Menace America, each player will select a monster that they'll play in. So you can be like King Kong, or you can be Godzilla, or you can be different things kind of like that. And you have your card of your monster and how it works, and then its abilities that they can do. And you have all these cities on this map of America, and then you want to stomp the cities, and then that gives you points or different things, right? So you're kind of going around trying to destroy all these cities. But each player also controls a military wing. So you could be the Navy, you could be the Army, you could be the Air Force. So like there's a different one that you can be. And then some, like you have like missiles, or you have tanks, or you have these different things that you'll put on the board as well. So you're kind of playing as both the monster and the good guys. But as the good guys, you're going to try and attack the other players' monsters. And then as your monster, you're going to try to stomp the other armies. And then you're going to try to stomp the cities and get points and all this stuff. And it was, like I said, it was fascinating. It was so cool when we played this one. We just couldn't stop talking about it. And the whole game looks cool. It plays so neat. And then like it plays in two parts. So you're kind of going around the first part where you're trying to collect as much from your monster, stomping these cities. And then, because what you're collecting there kind of makes your monster a little bit stronger. So when you get into the second part, now it's like the monsters are destroying each other. And the last monster standing is the winner. So it was cool. And so neat. It left such an impression. And I mean, it's an old game, 2005, but it's so cool. And that's my number 5, Monster Menace America.
I've never heard of this one ever. Cool.
I don't think most people have.
No. My number 5 is Lost Expedition, made in 2017 by Pierre Sylvester. Now, this one is a card game that you can play co-op, solo, or competitive. I've never played it competitive, but I've played it co-op and solo. And it's quite neat. You have, I think it's 9 cards which make up your trail, and you're trying to get to the end of this trail to survive. And you have 3, I guess they would be, well, it just depends. They're just 3 explorers, basically. And they all have a certain amount of health. There's that health again, but it's cool. So what you do is you have a hand of cards, and you will each play a card, and they have a number on the bottom of them. And in the day phase, because you have a day and a night phase, you will play one card, and then the next player plays one, and you play, I think, 6 in a 2-player game, 3 each, I think. And then you have to put them in numerical order. And that can really mess you up, because each card will have on it either red actions, yellow actions, or blue actions. And the red actions are mandatory. You have to choose one of them, and they're usually bad. The blue actions, I believe, are optional, and then the yellow, I think I'm getting mixed up with the colors. But anyway, how it works is you have to choose one of each, basically. There's one color that is optional, but that's usually a good one that you want to do. And what you'll be doing is you'll either be, you start with some bullets and some food and health, and each of your explorers has, I think, 3 or 4 health it starts with. And you could run across some animals that you might want to shoot and use them for food. But a lot of times you'll get into some dangerous animals that will injure you, and they will take some of your health. But there's other things that you can do. You will have to give up either some food or some health to move across your trail, and because you want to move from card to the end. And those ones usually cost a lot of either health or food, or a combination of things like that. And so you get through the day, hopefully, you survive the day, and you have to give up some of your food at the end of each day, and then you go into a night phase. And the night phase is even harder because you will play cards the same way, like 3 each, but you will play one card and then somebody will put a card down either before or after it, so they're not in numerical order. So you have to be careful because there on some cards there are some things where you can skip a card, or it makes you actually add another card from the deck and you have no idea what that card is. It could be, you know, some like tarantulas that are gonna like take some of your health, or you could run into like a cougar or something and you don't know, or you could run into like a nice tribe that is going to give you food and shelter or something. But it's really neat because you have to plan this out with your cards, and you want to make sure that you're not putting too many bad things in a row, or you're putting a bad one after a card that says you could skip it. And it's just a lot of planning, and it's really neat. It's a unique game. I've never seen anything like it. And that's my number 5, Lost Expedition.
Well, that one sounds neat. Mm-hmm. My number 4 is such a punishing game. I think I won this one time. And a lot of times we lost without getting a single hit in. And that's Aeon's End. It was published in 2016. It's created by Jenny Iglesias, Nick Little, and Kevin Riley. And it's published by Indie Boards and Cards. And this is a cooperative deck building game. And one of the things that's kind of interesting with this one is there's cards that's going to determine the play order between the players and the monsters. And there's also, you don't shuffle your deck. So you want to try to buy cards to create the combos that you need by buying the cards around the time that you're in that deck. And then it goes in your discard pile. It's like, okay, great. Well, now I have some diamonds together. So hopefully they come in my hands at the same time. Or, you know, like, and you're trying to strategize your deck that way. And then when you kind of use up your entire deck, you take the deck without shuffling, you flip it over, and it's your kind of get next deck to go. So you're trying to stack it in a specific order if you can. And with this one, there's different monsters and different scenarios that you'll kind of be doing. There's different gems that's available, different spells that's available, and you can buy that and add that into your deck. And I mean, like the one time we played, we had the monster that would attack, and you're trying to protect the village is kind of the goal, and destroy the monster before your village is destroyed. And you'll have these, you know, like the one time, like, because you're trying to hit this monster and kill this monster, but the monster was also sending out minions, kind of like these littler things that was attacking and hitting us as well. So we're trying to destroy them so that we can get to the monster and try to save the village. And we ended up having the village getting destroyed without ever getting a single hit to this monster. It was such a brutal defeat. Like, it was a terrible, brutal defeat. And for some reason, I love it. Like, I tend, like, it's funny because I'll get that again and again. Like, I like the Pandemic. I like the different games that it just seems like where the game beats you up. And it's like, you're at the end, like, oh, wow, that was terrible. Let's do it again. So, and Aeon's End has landed that way for me more often than not. More often than not, it just kicks our ass. And then it's just like, wow, that was pathetic. Okay, let's do it again. But I love it. It's so neat. And it's the whole mechanism on how you're building your deck, but you don't flip. And then you have these special abilities you can kind of boost up, but you got to kind of get it to full power before you can activate it. And then the different scenarios, how it'll play differently, and the different cards that comes about, because it's a bit Dominion style. Well, you'll have different cards available each time. And honestly, maybe we need to stack our deck a little bit better depending on the monster we get. But it was great. And that's my number 4, Aeon's End.
Awesome. I have been intrigued by that one, but I've never played it. My number 4 is Radlands, made in 2021 by Danielle Peachnick. This one I think we talked about. You talked about last time, possibly. I think this was in one of your 2-player games. I really like this game too. I haven't got to play it a lot, but it's so cool, and it doesn't actually you don't counter your health. You're just trying to destroy each other's camps, and you have 3 camps. And there's like a whole deck of camps, so it can change up. Like every game is so different. And each camp has kind of a cool ability too. But you have 3 camps at the bottom of your, it's not really a player board unless you have the player mats. But then you would have 6 spots, 2 in front of each camp, that you can play people down that can help protect those camps. And then the other player has the exact same thing on their side. The one thing you can do is you can get these events and you put them on the left-hand side of your player board, let's say, and you will start them at 0 and they will slowly move up each round. And once they get to the end, I think the end is 3, there are some that they start at a higher number. They will attack the other camps or people, and they have a stronger attack than like some of your people would have. Now, the currency in this game is water. That's how you pay your people and how you like kind of hire them or get them out on your board. And it's neat because you do always refresh at the end of your round, but you only refresh with 3, I think. There is ways to get some more water, and because you'll need more to get more powerful things out. But it's neat because you will play a person down. They aren't ready, so you can't use them this round, so you have to kind of tilt them sideways. And then next round you will flip them up, and then they're ready and you can use their ability on them. The cards are multi-use cards, because the other thing you can do with the card is there's an icon on the top left, I believe, and you can just dump that card and use that. Like, it could give you some water, or it can help heal one of yours if they're like injured, or help heal a camp. Because sometimes you will hit the other person's camp, but it only kind of just, it stuns them, or I can't think of the word, but it doesn't actually kill them yet. Or you might exhaust a player instead of killing them, and then they can come back the following round. They can't use them the next round, but the following one they can use them. It's really neat. You can really come back in this game. Like, you can be 2 camps down and have 1 standing and still come back, just depending how you play the cards. The card actually has one more use, that if you just don't flip it over, because on the top side of the card are all these like punks, they're called, and it's all the same art on them, so you can use it as a punk, and that just kind of gives you like 1 health, I think, that you could stick it in front of a camp just to protect it a little bit more. But it's so neat, and the art on it is just amazing. Like, it's in these bright pink and purple and blues, and it's very steampunk themed, I guess it would be steampunk, like futuristic. It's very very cool art. But yeah, that's my number 4, Radlands.
Yeah, Radland is great for sure. My number 3 is Legendary Encounters Alien. So this one was published in 2014. It's created by Ben Chosky and Daniel Mand, and it's published by Upper Deck Entertainment. Now, with the legendaries, there's 2 kinds. You get the legendaries and then the legendary encounters. So with legendary, like legendary James Bond or legendary Marvel, the way that you go through and the bad guys will escape. And if too many escapes, you fail the mission. But with legendary encounters, the bad guys are slowly going through, and if you don't destroy them while they're going through kind of like the top part, they come into the battle zone and then they attack you every round. So with the legendary encounters, you're just trying to kill them before they kill you. And the aliens specifically, because I have Alien and I have Predator, and you can actually combine both of them to do like Alien versus Predator movies. But with the Alien version, it's so thematic, because you'll have the cards that go down the shaft of the ship, but you don't see what they are unless you're able to scan the card. And if you're able to scan the card, you can flip it over. And this is a deck building game, so you have different cards, and if you have enough, because you can use the kind of the claw symbol to either attack or to scan these cards. And when you scan the card, you'll flip it over and it'll kind of show you what it is. Now, it could be that it is one of the gold cards you need to uncover to get to the second phase. Because on the first phase, like you'd be like, hey, you need to find these 2 parts, and then you can go into this phase 2, and then you're got 3 things you're trying to accomplish to be able to survive. But so could be like, oh, okay, good, I found one of them. So then that goes into your kind of your goals that you're trying to accomplish. Or it could be an alien that is coming down this shaft and you're seeing it coming and you're like, oh my God, that one's going to hurt. So you're trying to destroy it before it comes into the battle zone. So, because if you kill it while it's stuck in the shaft, it's not necessarily attacking you. But then you also have these eggs that have face huggers. So, and if you've seen the movie, they had these eggs that when the people got too close to it, it shot out this thing that attached itself to the face, and then those are the face huggers. So if you flip one of those over, then you have to put a face hugger next to your character. Now you have a face hugger on you. And if you're able to destroy this face hugger before it's your turn again and the other players can help, then you're good. It's been destroyed. But if it doesn't, and this is what's happening in the movie, you have these face huggers, and if what they're doing is they're impregnating you with an alien inside your body. So then if you don't destroy this face hugger, now you get this chest burster card that goes in your discard pile, which is okay. It's in the discard pile, so it doesn't kind of affect anything so much. But eventually, you're going to run out of your deck. You're going to have to shuffle your discard pile, and you know that somewhere in there's a chest burster. And as you're playing and you're trying to continue to go through destroying the aliens before they destroy you, and also trying to get these goals resolved, if this chest burster ever gets into your hand, well, your chest burst open and your character dies. So then it's like, oh, shoot, I'm dead. Okay, it's up to you guys. And if every character dies before they're able to complete all these goals to get out of there, then you lose the game. But it's so neat. It's so an emotional game as you're playing. Like, oh no, great, damn it, there's a face hugger. I was like, okay. Okay, and then this alien's about to come into the battle zone, and I can't destroy him. I don't have what I got. And it's like, okay, I can, I do have this card that I can help you with, but it gets so nerve-wracking, I guess, as you're playing this game, and it's so thematic. I just love it. So that's my number 3 legendary encounters, Alien.
Yeah, you talked about this one a lot. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's a great game.
My number 3 is Board Royale, and this is made in 2020 by Addict and Kankerer, Tuna Premier, and Merrick Tanzer. This one is basically a card game, but it's a survival card game at its best. You start with a hand of cards, which are basically resources, and they're either wood, stone, apples, gold, and iron. I think those are the resources they use. And what you need these cards for is you need them to build other cards, tools, or escape routes, but they're also your health. So however many cards you have, that's what your health is. So you don't want to spend too many, because if you get down to 2 or 3, well, someone can easily use one of their guns or something to get rid of your cards. So you need to build up this big hand of cards. So I don't think there's a limit. There might be, but I actually don't think there is. And then in the middle of the table, there will be these tools that you can build. So there'll be like guns, slingshots. Something will be like you can run away from an attack, or there's also these escape items that you can have, and they will give you escape points. And if you can get up to 10 escape points, you've won. But it's very tricky to do because people always try to destroy those things. And some of the escape cards, they will say, like, if you can get these 3 specific things, they will add up to like a huge amount of escape points. But it's really neat because you will build these items like guns and whatnot, grenades and all kinds of things, but they just sit in front of you, and then you still have to use resources to use them. And so you still need to build up these cards, but sometimes you need like one resource like iron, and you just can't get it out of the deck because each turn you get to pick up cards before you start. And it's funny because there's some cards that let you take items from or resources from other people, and you draw out of their hand and you draw the one card that they needed to build this this thing they were looking at, and it's really cool. And you will like die, like someone will die, and then it can be down to 2 players. I think it might go up to 5 or 6, so it'd be interesting to play at a higher player count. I've only played it at 3 max so far. I don't know that it would be a great 2-player game. It might be very quick because you could easily kill some just if you're working on one person. But there's all these different decks that it comes with as well. It comes with 2, one main and then an expansion, but you can get like tons of these expansion decks where you can have people that you hire that'll give you an ability. There's like a military deck that gives you like different items that they'll like fly in and drop off resources and stuff. And I don't even know what the other decks were, but it's really cool. And it can be a quick game. It could be literally a 10-minute game, or it could last for an hour depending how you work. I know we played this one deck of a friend that I died, but somehow he brought me back, and then and then it was weird. The one player kind of ganged up on me and killed me, and then this other one brought me back, and then we ganged up on that player. Like, it was just funny. And it's like a real, like, it's not all long. Like, it's typically, they don't last an hour. It's not a long game, so you can take that in short games like that, and you can just like back talk and slam each other, and it's just really fun. It'd be a perfect game for like at a convention at night when your brain is just fried from some heavy games. Let's just play this simple one and just try and destroy each other. But it's really fun. I mean, I have to get Cherry to bring it to FallCon. It'd be a good late night game. And that's Board Royale, my number 3.
Yeah, I've played that one once in June at 5 players. And I mean, yeah, definitely lots of take that. It was interesting on how you're trying to collect the cards, but then you can also kind of steal from each other. Yeah. Definitely a lot of take that, as I mentioned. And then I was like, okay, great, I'm going to do this. Okay, great, I acquired this. Is like, okay, good. And then I was like, oh no, I only have 4 cards left. Yeah. And then my friend Travis is like, oh, you only have 4 cards left. And then even though I got myself all set up, I had the things I wanted, like, I left myself vulnerable and I died. But yeah, it is an interesting one.
How long did your 5-player game take? I'm curious.
There was a lot of chatting. Oh, yeah. So the game got paused a lot. Oh. So I don't remember, and it wasn't a true interpretation because of how much talking we were doing as well. But that one was an interesting one. All right, so my number 2 is Memoir 44. This one was published in 2004. It's created by Richard Borey, and it was published by Days of Wonders. I played this one for the first time with my brother, and it's funny because he was like, okay, let's play Memoir 44. And then I was like, well, we got other players, so let's not, because it's a 2-player game. And he's like, okay, let's play Memoir 44. I was like, well, no, not right now. I was like, okay, look, I'll come over, just me and you, and we'll play Memoir 44. So I went over so I kind of avoided the game for like months. And then I went over to his house or to his work, and then we set up Memoir 44, and we ended up playing it. And after the first game, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I need this. And I started hunting it down, and I'm like calling every store. Well, do you guys have it? And then I couldn't find it anywhere. And then finally I ended up finding it at a little store in Red Deer. And I bought it right away. But it was so good. And this is interesting. Like, it's army base, like you're playing Axis versus Ally, but it's very historically accurate as well, because you're replaying the Battle of Normandy, and you have your tanks, and you have your infantry, and you have your kind of like little cannon gun things, and you have the map, and it's double-sided where it's like a beachfront or whether it's like in the forest somewhere, and then you kind of flip the board to what you're doing depending on the scenario you got, and then you put the terrain depending on what it says, and then you put the troops where it says that it was, and then you replay the battle. And there's different objective, but like you'd be like, okay, well, I got my infantry there, and I'm going to go and attack yours there, and then you're rolling the dice to kind of determine, and then be like, oh no, you hit me by 2. Okay, now my infantry's down to 2 units instead of 4. It's like, oh no, you hit me by 1 more. It's like, okay, no, this is terrible. I'm down to 1. I need but then also the board is divided in 3 sections, like the left, the right, and the or the left, the right, and the center. And you have to have the cards that controls that area in order to be able to move those troops. And kind of goes thematically as in communication was not the best in those days, and trying to get the orders out to the troops to go to where they needed to be was part of the struggle as well, right? So, okay, well, I can move this, and I can go after that, but I'm worried I'm down to one unit here, and then but it's neat. And then, so you can kind of see your unit dies down, but and then you kind of, every time you kind of kill a unit fully, then you would gain a medal. And then there's, once you've kind of reached so many medals, then you win the game. But it is neat and it looks cool. And I had joined a Facebook group for Memoir 44, and a person on there was like, oh, that's great that you and your son are playing. So he's like, I'll send you some stuff for it. And he sent me these handmade 3D components because he put the tiles of the forest and that sort of stuff. And he has these created in like clay or plaster or something, and they look amazing. And then he sent these, and now you've set this up on the board. The board looks so good. And then you play, it's neat. It's neat. I haven't played all the scenarios that we have yet at all. We bought a couple of extra, like we have the Eastern Theater, we have like the Pacific Front, so you get like more armies kind of added into it, and it's all historically accurate as well. So it's very neat. And that's my number 2, Memoir 44.
This one has a ton of expansions too, right?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. My number 2 is Dead of Winter. This is made in 2014 by Jonathan Gilmore and Isaac Vega. This was one of the first dice placement cooperative games that I played on it at my old cafe that I used to go to before it hasn't reopened yet. But we used to play this when I was a beginner gamer, and I just loved it. We would set this up, and the first time I played it, I thought, this is amazing. Like, I'd never played anything like it before. And what you do is you're trying to survive the winter against the zombies. And you all have a bunch of dice, and you'll each roll them, and you start with some characters, and they kind of have certain abilities, whether they help with attacking zombies, or they can like gather things quicker, or different things like that. But you start in this what's it called? Not a con. You all start in this area, and what you're trying to do is go out into this town kind of thing, and there's like a police station, a grocery, a school, and you're trying to gather all these resources, like you need gas or food or like some weapons, and how you do it is you will go to one of these places, and you have to use gas to get there because you would have to drive mostly, and then you will search through this deck. And depending how many cards you take, you might make noise, which will kind of attract some zombies. So you kind of don't want to do that. But some of your player abilities might search a little bit quicker and get more things. And so you'll get these resources and you'll keep them. And then at the end of the round, by the end of the round, you've had to contribute to this like common goal each round, whether you need to collect medicine or food. And it's funny because this is a semi-co-op game, whereas you do have to cooperate in order to like fight these zombies, but there is one final winner at their end, or there could be. And there also could be a traitor in the mix, depending if you've mixed that card in at the beginning. So you don't even know if there's a traitor. So you're all looking around suspicious. Like, I feel like everybody here is lying. I don't know which one is the traitor, or if there even is one. But so when you contribute these cards, you contribute them face down. So nobody knows what you put down. You could say, oh yeah, I've got 2 food right here because I'm like so generous. I'm going to give up my food. And then you need 4 by the end of the round or something. And then someone else puts 1, another person puts 1. And so you're like, oh yeah, we're good. And so then at the end of the round, you shuffle those cards, so you don't know which one anyone put in. You flip them over, and you may very well have 4 food, but you may very well have 4 pieces of junk there. Nobody contributed food, or somebody did. Like, I honestly did put 2 food, but one person put junk. So we lose our, it's not health. It's our, I can't remember what the term is. It's like our vibe. Like, it's another term for like our, I can't think of the word right now, but you'll lose that. And if it does go down to 0, you die. So that's another way to die. You can kill off your own characters too, or they can die from being bit, because you have to roll this dice. It's called, I can't remember what the dice is, but it's an evil die, because you can have blanks on it, which is fine, but you can have this bite symbol. And if it bites you, one is like a huge bite, which just kills you, but there's other ones that will just injure you, and they will give you, so you'll have to put like a little health piece on your board, and you're like, if you get 1 or 2 more, you're dead, right? And that character will die. You can get more characters throughout the game, which also it's good, but you have to feed those people too. So the more people, like some people always, like, you'll look over and they've got like 5 characters. You're like, slow down, we gotta feed you, remember, like, just chill. I only have 2 sitting here. Let's even it out. But I think I've only played it twice with a trader. And the funny thing is, you can also like vote to like banish this trader from the, what's the word? Not a concubine, but like a...
The compound?
That's the word. You can banish them. And so then when they go out, all they're trying to do is like kill you guys basically, and like screw everything up. And then you know that they are, but you might not know at the time. Because some will like trick you, and they will like help out, the first few rounds. You're like, okay, yeah, we're all working together. And then all of a sudden, then things start happening, and you're just trying to figure out who it is. And it's really fun. It's fun even if there's no trader, just trying to cooperate and trying to survive. And there's like different levels of play. There's different levels of length of the game. You can play like a short, medium, or long game. There's like scenarios you can play, and it's not talked about much anymore. It was talked about a lot quite a few years ago, but I still love it. And I like to pull it out around Halloween. I usually make Cherry play it every Halloween, but I love it. And that's Dead of Winter, my number 2.
It does have a good theme for that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a neat one. It's not one but yeah, like it's one that was definitely talked about a lot. Yeah. And then that hidden trader thing. Well, is there one? Is there not one? And just creating that mistrust. It does make things really, because isn't there like secret objective as well?
Yeah.
It's like, what
so that's how because you can all win by surviving, but then you have to complete your secret objective to actually win the game. I think there can be more than one winner, but typically there's usually only one, or you've survived, but nobody has completed their secret objective.
Yeah, that seems interesting for sure. All right, my number 1 is Ashes Reborn, Rise of the Phoenix Born. This one was published in 2015. It was created by Isaac Vega, and it's a Played Hat Games. Oh, that's where when you said Isaac Vega, I was like, okay, I know that name. That's why.
I think he did Ashes before Dead of Winter.
No,
I'm pretty sure. I think Ashes was first, yeah.
Yeah, and then this one, I bought this game on Look Alone. The box of this game is stunning. Each card, the artwork in it is just completely amazing. With the original box, it's like a white background with like the artwork popping out of it, and then the colors are so vibrant. And then with the new one, it's a red-black background, and then kind of similar artwork, but it's just so good looking. And it's with like the way that the story went, was like you're all Phoenix born, and now you need to kind of come down to just one. So got your Phoenix born battling the other Phoenix born so that you can absorb their power and become the only Phoenix born, from what I understand. And it's neat because you have your character and you have your deck of card, and in there you'll have spells that'll activate different abilities or that can conjure creatures. So you have a special separate deck that has the creatures that you can conjure. You'll have allies that you can bring into your battlefield to help you battle. So, and then in front of you, you'll have your spell book and then your battlefield area. And you have a limit of how many spells you can have. There's a limit of how many allies or combat people that are kind of creatures that you can have in your battlefield at one time. And then you also have dice. And these are nice, bright, stunning custom dice. And then you'll roll that first, and then you have all these dice. Now, there's 3 options of what can be on there. It could be like the highest potential roll that you could get, and then that can actually be used to do anything, because depending on the actions you want to do, whether you want to put a spell in your spell book, or whether you want to activate a spell, or whether you want to bring an ally into your battleground, each one of those actions require for you to pay the cost, and those are with the dice. So maybe you need like a level 3 blue dice and a level 1 any color dice, so you'll take those 2 dice to activate your action, and they go on the other side to kind of show that it's been spent. So you're kind of limited as to what you've rolled in the dice, and you're also limited in what you have in your hands, and it's so cool. Lee is not a big fan of this one, and I think it's because there's no clear path. It's not like, okay, well, on your turn you do this and this and this. Because it's on your turn you can activate a main action and a secondary action. And then the other player gets to go, and it goes back and forth until you've activated all that you could or all that you wanted to with the dice you had access to and what was in your hand. But so it is like, okay, so what do I do? And I was like, well, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this, or you could, and there's just so many options, and it was just, for him, it was like a little too overwhelming at the time. He's like, no. And then we started playing it. We're halfway through the game, and he's like, this one is really not for me. So we quit playing it. And my kids aren't fan of it either. I've played it with some other people. They're like, oh my God, this game is amazing. And I was like, I know. I love this game. Like, this is my favorite game. It is so good. But nobody in my household will really play it, right? And it's, I mean, I've played it where we've played multiplayer, but it is best at 1 versus 1. So it's not one that hits the table very often for me, just because I don't oftenly have one player
for a game
that
night
comes over to play, right? Like, if it's me and Lee, sure, no problem. But when it's like I'm inviting somebody over to play, this isn't normally the one that can hit the table. But it's great. It's so good. It gets compared a fair bit to Magic the Gathering, which I haven't played Magic the Gathering, but from what I understand, instead of like the mana cards, you have the dice to activate the different things that you want. But it's amazing. That's my number 1, Ashes, Reborn, Rise of the Phoenix Born.
Awesome. I haven't played that one yet, but I've always kind of looked at the box, and it looks very interesting. All right. My number 1 is Robinson Crusoe, Adventures of the Cursed Island. And this is made in 2012 by Johanna Kijanka and Ignacy Trzewiczek. Now, this one is like a love-hate game almost. It's like very hard, and I used to just play it solo, and I realized I don't enjoy this one solo. I need more brains to get through this one. I need multiple different personalities that will help me get through this. So I did put that on the sell list, but only because a friend of mine has it, and I know, okay, cool, then we can play your version, because I will not play this one solo anymore. But it's so neat, and it's such an interesting game. You are, most of the scenarios, you are like stuck on a desert island, and you're trying to survive or get off. And how you do that is you do have a health meter at the bottom, and you are playing a character. If you play solo, you get to play with Friday as well, and the dog that helps you. And what you need to do is go out and explore these different areas and gather things from those areas and build tools and build up your shelter, build your palisades, and try to just get build your tools and stuff, and try to get as much stuff as you can, because bad stuff is gonna happen. Guaranteed. You are gonna pull cards from different decks that you have to roll when you're building or exploring, and you may be clear and not have to pull any cards, but you most likely will. You'll pull a card, and it won't say anything too bad right now. It'll just kind of give you an idea what can happen in the future, and then that deck or that card is going to get shuffled into your main deck that you have to pull every round. But like it might say on the bottom, when this comes back, this is gonna tear down your palisades, 2 or 3 levels. So you're like, oh geez, now I got to build it up to level 8 or something. So you shuffle it in the deck. You don't know when it's coming up. You know it's coming, but so you can kind of prepare, or like it's gonna, you know, a wild animal's gonna come back at you and all these things. And it's not, that's not the only bad part. Is there's another card at the bottom that will kind of slide over every round, and you can see on it what exactly is going to happen if you don't beat that card. So you're going to have to use some of your people to do that, and you only have a limited amount of discs that you can use to build and do these things. You don't want to waste them on just like covering up that, or like taking care of that card, so that, you know, you don't lose a bunch of stuff. And you need food. You need to gather food that you can store, not just like food that's going to go bad, because at the end of the round you might have a whole bunch of bananas, but they're all going bad, so they just all go away. So there's all these different things. You need to build these tools together, and then you each have this extra tool, and there's just so much going on. The rule book in this is so extensive. That was one other reason why I kind of never played it a lot, was you literally have to read a whole book before you remember all the rules. There's so many rules in this game, but it's so satisfying when you win, even if you come close to winning, because a lot of times I'm pretty sure you lose more than you win in this game. But it's really good, and you really just get involved in this game, and it just like, you just escape and you get into this world, and you're like, oh my god, we need to get food here, we need to build that up, I need to go hunting. And it's so good, and it's such a fun cooperative game. And that's my number 1, Robinson Crusoe, Adventures of the Cursed Island. It is one that's very much talked about, but also for how punishing and difficult it is. So yeah. That's awesome.
Well, that sounds cool.
All right. So that was our top 9 survival games. Now, next week we are going to talk about FallCon, because we will have, at this point, have been to FallCon, which is coming up for us.
Yes.
Next week and a half. But so excited to go. Another convention.
It's very exciting. FallCon is the largest convention in Alberta for board games.
Yeah, it's the big boy.
So should be a good event.
Mm-hmm. And even more exciting, there's going to be an auction, and Melanie's got lots of space. So we're all placing our bets on how many games she's going to buy. Should be fun. We'll talk about that too. But
last FallCon I went to, I made a point to not go to the auction.
You might have to tie
I went to
you
just
down
a flea market instead.
We'll make somebody play Ashes with you, and maybe. They're playing Ashes over there, Melanie. Oh, okay.
Oh,
that might draw you away.
Yes, no, very exciting. Yeah. Very looking forward to attending FallCon, and I'm part of the FallCon group, so I'll be volunteering at the FallCon event quite a bit as well. Awesome. So next episode we'll tell you all about it.
Yes, but until then, where can people find you?
So on Facebook, my Facebook group is called Mel and Friends Board Game Room. On Instagram, it's Mel's_boardgame_room. And my YouTube channel is Mel's Board Game Room. And actually, I have been doing the unboxing, because every time I was unpacking a box, I recorded it. So I've been doing the unboxing of my entire collection. So that's still getting posted, 1 video a day. And then by the time this airs, it'll be well past, but I'll be doing the big reveal of what my game room looks like now.
That's exciting. Awesome.
And how about you, Carla? Where can we find you?
You can find me at in Instagram at Board Game Specialist, all one word, or on Facebook at Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. All right. So that is it for this episode. So until next time, thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.